to episode 56 of Eat, Drink, Write, an Urban Fantasy Whiteboard. We are going to be talking about stereotypes again. We've done a couple episodes on stereotypes, and today we're going to talk about the sidekick, which is always, I don't know that I can think of anything that there's not some kind of sidekick in. But before we get to that, how was your week?
It's been a long week. Still trucking along for my grad school degree. So, there's that. Been having some issues with my advisor, which is, I don't know, par for the course for grad school, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's been a long week. Hopefully this next week will be a lot better because I sat down with her yesterday and just planned out everything I was going to do next week. And so I've got a pretty solid plan moving forward. And then I mentioned in one of the last episodes that I am an angry writer. So I have written like 3,000 words on Louis and Delaney, and then I'm up to 18,000 on Aiden. So I did a lot of writing this week, which is really good.
Very nice. I thought you were done with Louis and Delaney.
Oh, this is book 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it has,
write more.
Absolutely. It's got 10,000 words on it now. I got to 10,000 yesterday. So
very nice. Well, Harper is really cooking in my head.
Yes.
So I'm very excited to work it out. I probably do need to talk to you about the magic that I'm building, the magical systems.
Yeah.
It's different. And I'm not sure.
Great.
I mean, it is, but I'm not sure it works. So I'm going to have to bounce it off of your head. And I'm very excited about it, though. And the characters are starting to become alive in my head. I know her family. Her history is now coming into play. So I'm very excited. But I didn't actually get any writing done. But honestly, this is still working on writing. It's still, quote, writing.
Make sure you write down all those ideas, because I will do this thing where I'm like, oh, that would be so cool. And then I'll go back and I'll be like, oh, what did I think would be really cool? And then I completely forget it. So
yeah, I haven't had time to write it down, so I'm afraid I'm going to forget it. So, because I had Chaos Court this week. That's been my sole focus. So the only time I think about the Harper book is when I climb into bed at night. And that's it, because that's the first time I have a chance to turn off work.
Right.
To tell you how chaotic it's been, Daddy took down all of the Christmas decorations, and it took me a day I never did notice. He finally had to point it out to me.
Wow.
That's how absorbed I am when it's court week.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ugh.
That's rough.
So yeah, didn't even notice. It looks good up there. Kind of empty. I miss the lights. I love Christmas decorations.
Right.
Anyway, what are you eating and drinking?
Well, so you were having technical difficulties before we started recording.
Yes.
I ate all of my snacks, but it was a bunch of different kinds of cheeses. So I had like Fontaine cheese and a wine cheese and Gouda, and I had Havarti cheese and then honey goat cheese.
Nice. That's your favorite, the honey goat.
It's so good. And they don't sell it at my Kroger. So I found this one at an Ingles in a city up in the mountains. So I bought 2 of them, and I was like, I am taking these.
Nice.
And then I'm drinking rooibos tea, so just a red tea, because I need some hydration, because I may or may not have been drinking last night.
I see.
Yeah.
I am drinking a dirty martini. It was my sister's birthday yesterday, and she was sending pictures of dirty martinis. So the dirty martinis have been stuck in my head, but the martini glass is problematic for our podcast because, they're the triangle thing and they spill and they don't hold very much. And so I have a dirty martini in a huge wine glass. This is one of the wine glasses you gave me at Christmas. You can't see it, but it's got little stripes on it. It's the striped one. Yeah. And so this dirty martini is about the size of 2 in one wine glass. So
well, that just makes it fun sized.
It's fun sized, and I'm not eating anything. Your little sister is trying to convince your father to order out some kind of food. So I'm not quite sure that that's going to happen. But anyway, I'm not eating anything right now. So I'll
Okay.
figure that out later. She wants barbecue.
Oh, yum. I don't blame her.
So, but football tomorrow. We're recording this on a Saturday, which is a weird time for us. We don't usually do that. But so tomorrow, Sunday, is the NFL championship and the AFC championship and the NFC championship. So that would be a good time to have barbecue.
That's true.
So I don't know if he'll agree to that for her tonight. She's trying to work her way around asking him. I don't think she's made it down here to ask him yet.
She's crafty. I think she could do it.
She could. So I have some jokes.
Oh, yes. Let's hear them.
Okay. Marvel Studios has just released a trailer for a new plumbing superhero and his sidekick. The sidekick only has one dialogue throughout the trailer. I am Grout.
That's a good one.
I like that one. Why was the baby jalapeno shivering?
Why?
He was a little chilly.
Aw,
That's all I've got today. I couldn't find any really good ones that hit me right. So that was it.
The plumbing one was good, though. I like the Marvel one.
I like that too. That was a lot of the sidekick ones were stupid. I thought there would be a lot of sidekick jokes, but there weren't. So anyway, I like the I am Grout one. So the sidekick stereotype. We all know the sidekick. One website I found, the Dramatic website, says that it is a character who represents the qualities of faith and support. The sidekick is a faithful supporter, usually of the hero, but is really identified by the qualities as opposed to the person that he or she works for. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the main character or the protagonist's sidekick. It could be a sidekick in that it's a person needed by the main character, but is not their worker, doesn't work for them. Yeah.
Right. So they don't necessarily need to be working for the main character. They don't need to be paid by them or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it could be a person's assistant or close associate, and usually has less authority than the main character or protagonist that they are the sidekick to.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I think those are really good points. I was looking at things about, like why would we want a sidekick or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so, sidekicks also provide perspective. They behave differently with the protagonist than they do with other characters, which strengthens the reader's connection to the narrative and the protagonist themselves. Sidekicks also provide a non-life-threatening tension in story. So small arguments that highlight characteristics of your protagonist might be a reason why you would want a sidekick.
That's a great point. It is a definite point. I like that sidekicks. Sidekicks may be my favorite character in a story. We talked about the mentor, and we all understand the mentor. And
you're right.
What was the other one we did? I can't remember what our other.
I don't know that we've done another character type yet.
Oh, okay. In my head, we have.
Yeah, and maybe we did. Maybe I don't remember. It's been a year of this at this point. So
this is true. But I think the sidekick is my favorite character. I think my favorite character. Well, I don't know. The what is it? The Flash, which is a DC comic, and they made it into a series. And my favorite sidekick character is, and I can't remember his name for the life of me. It's been forever since I've watched
I know who you're
the
talking
Flash.
About. Yeah.
But I love him. And he has his own life, which you have to do with a sidekick, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
An interesting fact, assuming that it's true, I found it on the internet, so it's got to be true.
Right.
The term sidekick was used by gamblers testing their luck at cards in the 1600s. It meant ace in the hole, or a power card held in reserve, which, if you think about it, a sidekick, that is what a sidekick is in a novel. It is the main character's ace in the hole a lot of times.
Right, yeah.
It's also was used as pickpocket slang in the 19th and early 20th century. The kick was the front pocket of a pair of trousers, believed to be the pocket safest from theft. Thus, by analogy, sidekick was a person's closest companion.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too. Also, when you're thinking about writing a sidekick is often someone who could be a hero in their own right, just not in this story.
Right, right.
You know, so think about there's series out there like, wow, I've only had a couple sips of this thing and I can feel it. Kresley Cole.
Yeah,
Her stories, each individual story is about these two main characters because hers are romances. So you've got the male and the female. She hadn't done any same-sex yet that I can think of.
So.
But anyway, it's the romantic couple, and there's always these side characters, and those side characters become the main character of their story. And so think of that too along when you're writing a sidekick. This could become a future main character if you're writing a series or a spin-off or something like that.
Right.
So types of sidekicks. I was trying to model this after how we did the mentor episode.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So there's the muscle. This
Right.
is the character that protects the protagonist, kind of bodyguardish, scary sometimes just because of their size or strength.
Yeah, I could see, something, a drawback of using this type of sidekick would be like, oh, they're invincible. Like they're a character that's used for the plot armor of the main character. So I would be worried about like falling into that kind of thing. But I like the idea of the bodyguard. I like the bodyguard characters.
Mm-hmm. Or protector. The protector maybe is what I should have called it instead of the muscle.
Right.
Because a lot of times the protective character is not always muscly.
That's true. That's true.
But they're still, quote, the muscle by analogy because of how they take care of the main character.
Right.
And like in Orphan Black, her stepmother or foster mother.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think would be, because she's not really a mentor because she held too much back to be a mentor.
Yeah.
But I think she might be considered the muscle.
I think, yeah, I would agree with that.
The brain. This is the character that knows things. I drink and I know things. Could be an expert in a field that helps the protagonist decipher something, someone that is relied upon for that information, that kind of thing.
Yeah, which like I've actually noticed that a lot. A lot of the time I see side characters or sidekicks or whatever who are really tech savvy and the protagonist is like not tech savvy at all. So they always go to this one character who's like, oh yeah, I'll hack into this thing. Like I feel like I see that character all the time.
I think so too. And then there's the friend. And this is a really common one because the best friend. Yeah. They have a strong commitment to the main character. They always have their back. They defend them no matter what, even if they don't agree with them. This is their friend.
Yeah.
Which
we'll get down to it later when we talk about our own books. But I feel like I use the friend character a lot, and I think that they can provide a point of tension also when they have disagreements. So like, yes, they'll always have your main character's back, but they're also there to be a sounding board for your main character. And if there's that disagreement between them, then there could be further tension in your story.
That's a good point. They can create tension. They can help move the plot forward, because remember that a best friend is going to do what they think is best for the main character, not necessarily what the main character thinks is best for the main character, which can definitely create tension, which is a wonderful thing in a book. You have to have tension and conflict.
Yeah.
The reassurer. I couldn't come up with a better name for this.
Reassurer.
I know there's got to be a better term. I even did the thesaurus trying to find out another word, but in my head, it's the person that reassures everybody. This is the character that keeps everybody on track. Let's not get carried away here when one of the main characters like, I'm going to go and do this, and the reassurer is like, let's just sit back for a minute.
Right, like, hold on.
Yeah, they're the calming force in the story, and you need that a lot of time. especially if your main character is a hot-headed, brash type of character. You need someone who is going to be able to keep them in check so that your book doesn't end on page 1 because they've rushed to their death.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then there is the rebel. This is a character who is used to shake things up. They show that the status quo isn't working. I think this is a super, super important character, a good way to use a sidekick. They offer a new way of looking things and breaking the molds.
Yeah, which I was thinking about this. And, honestly, with all of these categories and types that we have, I think they can be mixed and, you can mix them together and get a character in, multiple categories. Because I feel like Xander and Buffy is kind of like, not necessarily like rebel, but he does call Buffy out on her, she is always like off to do things and he's like, hold on. So, I feel like, he also makes decisions that changes the game. Like when, he had the information that Angel was going to turn back into himself and he decided not to tell Buffy that. And that could have changed everything.
That's true. That is a really good point. I think this character is really important because, number one, it shows by all the other characters, you show, oh, I'm going to follow Buffy because Buffy knows what she's doing. And then you have this one character who's like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. And that's an excellent way to show your main character as being fallible, making a wrong decision, and all the little followers, not that they're sheep or anything, but they trust her, they believe in her.
Yeah.
So it is very helpful to have this rebel who takes it back a step and lets them think on a different level. Look at things outside the box, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's the comic relief, which honestly is my favorite. I really, I always have these characters in my books. They just come by themselves. I don't plan them. I don't plot them. They just show up and they crack me up and I love them. This is the character that is used to lighten up the story. You always hear about comic relief where you're in this really heavy scene, something horrible has happened, and you need something to bring your reader back out so they don't go and commit suicide. That's what that comic relief is for. They're often clumsy or careless. They usually don't necessarily think things through, which is funny because they do things and then they're like, oh, that wasn't, I shouldn't have done that. They make jokes. They see humor in everything. They're very important characters.
I agree. I feel like the comic relief characters give your readers and audience a character that they can actually identify with. They bring humanity to the narrative. Like they're here to, bring out that humor. Everyone's got humor. It makes me think of Sokka in Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I don't think you watched. But Sokka is very much a comic relief character, and he's there to crack jokes and be silly and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Well, and sometimes you do need someone who can see the humor in things. You really do need that character to be able to bring everybody back from the brink. Doom is coming. Like in Supernatural, they were constantly on the edge of apocalypse, and every season that I just finished that series, that's why it's on my mind. I watched the whole last season. We watched it in 2 days.
Nice.
Yeah, we binged it. But yeah, I cried. It made me cry, and you had to have humor to bring your reader back. It's okay. These things happen, and humor is there to make us all human. So I went through and found a bunch of examples because I love sidekicks. So Chewbacca from Star Wars, he is the muscle for sure. Like you said, they all cross over. They're not, and you don't want them to just be, oh, he is just the friend, because that is a one-dimensional character, and you want to make these characters living, breathing, real people.
Right.
So Chewbacca was the muscle. I mean, he was a full, hairy, scary-looking, huge creature, but was definitely in the friend category too. He backed up Han Solo no matter what. Hermione, she's the brains. Perfect example of the brain sidekick.
Yeah.
And the friend, obviously.
Yeah.
And Ron from Harry Potter as well. He's comic relief. You often see him as comic relief, you know, the spiders, and you're scared, and then it's funny to see his reaction to the spiders, and you know, it makes that moment a little less heavy.
It's a bit lighter, yeah.
And he's a friend. There's also the love interest, which is another episode that we'll have to do. So, you know, Ron and Hermione, there's the love interest issue there, but that's a whole different category, which we'll do an episode on later.
Right.
Han Solo, definitely the rebel.
Absolutely the rebel.
You know, everybody else is, oh, these are the rules. And even the rebels themselves had their own rules, their own hierarchy of command and how things should be done. And he was like, I don't think so.
Nah. Yeah.
You know, yeah, you need that rebel to shake them up and make them think outside the box. Samwise Gamgee.
What a goodie.
I know. One of the best. Yeah. He is the reassurer. Kept everybody calm. I know. There's got to be a better word than that. A calmer. I don't know what the word is.
Reassurer.
But he's also the friend who has Frodo's back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also kind of calls him out on it. Mm-hmm. You know, with the little creature, whatever his Gollum. I mean, a little creature. He's a cute little creature, but demented, broken little creature. Yeah. Watson from Sherlock Holmes. He's the brain, but also the friend. Willow from Buffy. So I was thinking Buffy too when I was thinking sidekick. She's the brain. She was the one that always they went to. She always had the books. She had the computer knowledge. She just knew stuff. But also the friend.
Yeah.
Mike Wazowski from Monsters, Inc. Love that movie. He was comic relief, clearly, but also a friend and kind of a rebel.
Yeah, because he did change things up.
Uh-huh.
You know, they both did. They both did it together, and he was very much like, okay, I guess we'll look after this little human monster thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Mushu from Mulan.
Yeah.
The cartoon Mulan. I haven't seen the live action one yet. He was the brains, kind of. I say that very loosely.
Yeah, I also almost feel like he's more of a mentor character, kind of.
He is kind of a mentor character.
Yeah.
But also comic relief because he's hilarious. Yeah. And the rebel because he totally goes outside the box of what all the other ancestors would have tried to do.
Right.
You know, and kept her alive where I think the other ancestors, she would have been a dead duck. You know?
I think so too, yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Hodor from Game of Thrones. He can't be a mentor. All he says is Hodor, which was hold the door.
Hold the door.
But he's the muscle, the protector.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
He's definitely not the brains. He was broken by what happened, which is so sad.
I know.
Spock from Star Trek.
Yeah.
The brains, kind of a mentor, definitely a friend, great side character. Mm-hmm. And you can't tell me that the Trekkies like me out there didn't love it whenever he would have a love interest and whenever he would show a little bit of emotion. You know, that's the thing about side characters is we love them too.
Yeah.
We want to see their story too. So don't make your sidekick just something that moves your plot along and complements your main character.
Or even just fills a role, because like that, when you put a character into a novel that is meant to fill a role, then it feels like they fill a role. I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. And side characters have so much life and so much potential to give. I love the sidekick.
Yeah.
So how do you create a sidekick? And hopefully you came up with more than this than I did, because I wanted to really help our listeners know how to do it, and I was struggling. So
yeah,
my first advice is make them a real character, like we said.
absolutely.
They need to have their own motivations, their own needs, their own goals, maybe even their own love interests. I like it when that main character can do something when the sidekick can do something the main character can't.
Me too. And, one way to think about this in general is, you mentioned earlier that, it just slipped my mind. I'm not even drinking and my brain is just not working with me. I was at work before this. So think about it in terms of the side character is their own, they have their own story. They are the main character of their own story.
Yes.
And if you treat them as such and give them those qualities of the hero or the anti-hero or whatever their personality is, think of them as, they are doing everything to their own goals. They are trying to achieve something. They have something that they want. They have their own conflicts. And I think if you treat them like that, even if they are just a side character, then they will be so much richer. They will be a round character.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it when they think, and you should actually do this for every character in your novels. They should have their own story, and you should create that story.
Yeah.
Even though this book isn't going to have that side character's story, you need to know what it is, because that makes that person real, and all of your characters have to be real, or it's going to be a very stilted story.
Right, very flat. Yeah.
You need to, when you're creating a sidekick, use contrast. Your sidekick should generally contrast your main character. But they should also complement each other. This is what you were talking about earlier with creating tension and conflict.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my biggest tip for that would be, each character, your protagonist and your sidekick, should bring out each other's characteristics and showcase the differences. So, I'll talk about my specific examples from my books in a second, but have your protagonist, need something from your sidekick that they lack in personality. And again, I'll probably get more in depth on that when I talk about my own characters and what I've done specifically with mine. But I think the takeaway is make sure that they do complement each other, and they bring out those characteristics in your characters.
One way to start brainstorming for your sidekick is to think about your own life. We all have partners, and we are our own main character. This is our life story. My life is my life story. Your life is your life story.
Right.
There are other characters in my world. You are a side character in my world.
Right.
Your father is a side character in my world. So think about that when you're writing your sidekicks. They do have their own life. They are their own main characters. I love that point that you made. I think that was brilliant. That is a really good way to think about it. And I can't stress it too much when you're sitting down going, I need a sidekick. Well, first of all, why do you need a sidekick? Think that through. Do you really? Side characters are different than sidekicks. A sidekick is a much stronger relationship to your main character than just the side characters.
Right, I agree.
Not that I would call your dad a sidekick, but he is.
Dad's the love interest. I think that's, like you said.
I think you're right. There is a truth. That is a love. Okay, so you're my sidekick.
Oh, thanks.
That was a good reaction. I didn't know what you were going to say to that. I guess I'm your sidekick too, though.
A bit, yeah.
Although, well, yeah, I guess I'm your sidekick. I am your protector, because nobody does anything to my babies that, I protect my children.
You're also a mentor because you're my mother and literally taught me how to like use a spoon and stuff. So
That's true,
I'm
Barry.
a mentor character.
I am a mentor. I'm a mixture, and that's a good point. That there can be crossovers. You know, the Sword of Shannara, the Druid, was definitely the mentor character, but there was so much more to him than that. You know, just don't make your characters one-dimensional, two-dimensional. Make them real, full-bodied characters.
Yeah.
Think about the emotional arc that your sidekick and your main character go through. There's going to be an emotional connection between them because they are, for some reason, close to each other.
Yeah.
They might be stuck to each other for, you know, against what they want, but there is going to be some kind of emotional connection between the two of them. I do like the sidekicks that don't want to help the main character, but have to because it's the right thing to do, or for whatever reason.
Or for their own reasons,
and that arc is always just so entertaining to watch that, you know, I hate you, but I have to help you, but don't expect me to like you, to the arc where by the time they're at the end, I can respect you. I still may not like you, but we understand each other.
Yeah.
So be aware of that emotional arc for the sidekick. The relationship can grow and change. That adds interest and conflict to your story. It can move the plot forward, which is all things that need to happen. Is that your cat?
Yes.
Is he visiting us?
He is.
I was watching I was looking at, it was Twitter. It was either Twitter or Instagram. And I was watching these stories of cats who, what is it? Photobomb, I guess is what it's called.
Oh, yeah.
Zoom meetings. And there was one with a cat's butt. He climbed up in front of his mom and then turned around and climbed down into her lap. So everybody on the Zoom got the picture of the cat's butt. It was the funniest thing. I just, you know, Zoom, our lives have all changed
Yes,
with this pandemic. But so also, your side character sometimes is a critical turning point in your book.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
like you said, especially with, you know, the rebel type of character or, you know, whatever, like they are there to change up the story and add to the plot.
So they may have their own shining moment in the story. I think of Samwise Gamgee.
Yeah.
Frodo would never have made it up that mountain. Samwise picked him up and carried him. I mean, he physically carried him. Frodo would not have made it without Samwise Gamgee.
Right.
And so that was his story. And, you know, when Frodo was talking about earlier in the movie or in the books where he was talking about Samwise having his own story and Samwise was like, oh, don't make fun of me. He wasn't making fun of him. Samwise does have his own story and he is the hero of his own story.
Absolutely.
So that Samwise is probably the best one to study as a sidekick because he is
right. Well, especially as the friend's sidekick.
Yes, but he was more than a friend.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was kind of the rebel. I mean, he took the ring for himself. I mean, there was all kinds of mishmash in there, but he was the star of the show. I mean, Frodo had the brunt to bear, but Samwise was huge in making that happen.
Was right there with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a few tropes that we should watch out for as we're writing our sidekick characters.
Like to try to avoid or?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, I mean, tropes are not bad, but tropes are typically, they're stereotypes of a genre. Or stereotypes of an archetype like this or whatever. So the stereotypes of sidekicks, just to watch out for, to be aware of, so that if you do use them, then, you know, just be aware that it is cliche or stereotypical, and if that's what your story needs.
Okay.
So sidekicks who are more trouble than they're worth is often a stereotype that is used with the sidekick character. So, you know, that the oh, they always end up in trouble. Oh, I got to go save blah again. Oh, I have to go save them again and again. I could see, your reader just getting frustrated with like, this is the same storyline over and over because the sidekick character is, oh, we got to go save them again.
Yeah. And at some point your reader's like, why?
Right.
Why bother? And they lose interest and they might put your book down and not ever pick it back up again. You're right.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Sidekicks who are inexplicably naive or worldly. So, we said that they're the brains characters, but a lot of the time there's a reason that those characters are the brain character. So, you've got two ends of the spectrum, like one that is like severely naive, doesn't know anything at all. And, the one that is, they know more information than they should. And I think we should probably strive for like a middle ground, something that just makes sense for these characters.
This reminds me of a story. It happened this week. Okay, so we were in court and we had, because I'm one of the people in the state of Georgia that has figured out how to do these Zoom hearings, I took it upon myself. I went to my chief judge and I said, look, we've got to get court going back again. We can't let our cases, child support's important, blah, blah, blah. So I have become known in the state as someone to come and ask questions of when they're trying to do things. So I had the assistant DA from Cobb County contact me and say, hey, can I sit in on your hearing so I can see what it's all about? So she came and she was watching and I was explaining how the Zoom worked and how I am the host and that she would want to be the host for her court. You've got to have someone in charge of who can come in. Otherwise it's a train wreck. So I have people in the waiting room. I let them in when it's their time to come in. And so I said, I'm kind of like the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And the judge said, is that anything like the keymaster? And I said, oh my God, it's a fellow nerd. This is great. He's like, I'm not a nerd. I'm not a nerd. I just wondered if anybody else had watched Ghostbusters. And I was like, you're kind of a nerd. But yeah, he was mortified that I had called him a nerd. He's like, you can revel in your nerdness, but I am not a nerd.
Sir, yes, you are.
Sir, yes, you are. That reminded me of that, and I don't know why, because I don't know what you were talking about. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, just about the information that a character knows. Like, make it realistic. Like, that was extremely realistic. Like, oh, you're a nerd. And it's like, oh, no, I'm not a nerd. But it's like, he likes Ghostbusters. Like, there's a reason he knows the term keymaster, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, you wouldn't have a character that knows the digits of pi up to 69 when they need it for whatever, like there's just no reason for them to know that. So you wouldn't want your sidekicks to be too smart for no reason. And that's the point there, is that there needs to be an explainable and explicable way to have these side characters know information.
Okay.
Or not know information.
Right.
Sidekicks that are simply less competent or confident versions of your protagonist. So, you got to make them your own like their own character. They are their own people. They're not just a copy of your protagonist, just lesser. Like they are they're their own people. They have confidence in different things. They should be confident in different things like that.
Although there is a time and a place for those little suck-up characters that, those yes men.
Yeah.
Those are sometimes needed in a story for whatever purpose. It could move the plot along.
That's fine, but
you don't want to make, that's not the sidekick. That would be a side character.
That's not the sidekick, but I'm saying like, a lot of stereotypical sidekicks are just a copy of the protagonist, just lesser. They're just less confident, but they want the same goals and they want the same things. And like, maybe they do, but I think, it's important to have your sidekick be their own person with their own goals and their own thoughts. And
why do they want the same goals that your main character? What is their story that makes them want the same thing? It can't just be because, oh, I love the main character. They're their own person. So good point.
Yeah. And then the last one that I was thinking about is there are lots of sidekicks that just never get their own character development. And this kind of ties in with the make them their own person, but they should also have their own arcs. we should be able to grow with them and see how they grow and see how they grow with the protagonist and that kind of thing. So just
Yeah, I think any character in your book, if you decide to write a second book that has that character as the main character, your readers should be able to immediately identify and go, okay, I'm ready for this character's book. Not, that's how real you want each individual character to be in your books, that your reader would be willing to read that story about that character because you've made them real enough that they've got their own motivations and issues and whatnot.
Right.
So I looked at my own novels, which this podcast is very good at making me do. I like to reevaluate my own works after researching these things.
Yeah.
I do have sidekicks. I think, and they just happen. They are my favorite characters. I mean, the main character, of course, I love is, Beck. I love her and she's got her purpose, but the side characters just make me laugh out loud. My favorite to write are teen characters.
Yeah.
They are just super fun because they aren't old enough to have the wisdom that older people do. And they aren't stuck in knowing what's accepted. They aren't molded into that, this is how it's supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to do. They haven't gotten to that point yet. So they can often be that rebel sidekick that you're talking about that helps characters see things from a point of view that is astonishing, that, we all know that it's supposed to be this way. And this teen character is like, why not this and this? And wow. And freaking fairies, the fairies are definitely sidekicks as opposed to just side characters.
Yeah.
And they play all the roles. We've got, they help move the character, the plot forward, they add humor, they educate Beck on the Fae world, and they even protect her. Well,
yeah, sort of.
One of them protects her, kind of.
Yeah.
So they're actually all the types of sidekicks. And I think if I wrote a story from the perspective of Leary, my readers would want to read it.
Yeah.
Because she has her own, she is a trip, and any of my fairies, I think they would want to read more about her. Yeah. My one romance novel, Chitara, the one, I don't remember what Dragonfire, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
The sidekick in that novel is the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
It is a huge part of the whole plot line.
Yeah.
And she is comic relief. She is adorable. I want one. Yeah. And that's what I want my readers to want too. I want my readers to want one too. So a sidekick doesn't necessarily have to be human.
Right.
Especially in urban fantasy, where we write urban fantasy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
She's not even able to communicate like humans do, but she definitely lets her points be known by her, the way she acts. And I love her. In Earth Asunder, my walking stick is a sidekick. That's the one I told you all about before, where he accidentally creates this sentient walking stick by an error in magic. And that character is comic relief a lot of the time, but also knows things and also is a friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just happened. I didn't even expect, when I was writing that scene and the walking stick came to life, I'm like, what? How did that happen?
Right.
It was not a character I had planned out. Like I'm telling you now about Harper, and I've got all my little characters. I guarantee there's going to be a character that pops up that I do not expect.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Mine do that all the time, where they change the personalities that I have planned for them and like that kind of thing. I like the walking stick idea as a sidekick. I think that's really cute. I think that's adorable. For my books, I think I said earlier, I use the friend stereotype a lot. Like I use the friend sidekick or whatever. So Aiden, which I'm writing right now, has Sarah, who's a witch, and is her best friend, but she's very upfront about things. She calls Aiden out on things that Aiden needs to be called out on. She does the tough love thing, where she's like, Aiden, you're being stupid, and this is why, and I love you for it, but you're being dumb, so like chill.
So kind of the reassurer too, ish.
Right, yeah, ish, reassure. Yeah, and then Louie and Delaney, which I'm also writing right now, they have their own people, and I'm not quite sure that they fall into the category of sidekicks. Like Delaney has Connor, who is her manager at work, and he's a friend, and kind of scolds her because she works too much and whatever, you know. And then Louie has Harding, who is her handler, and is kind of there to, well, he's kind of a dick, but he's also there to help her with, you know, by being there for.
He's kind of the muscle. He's the muscle, but he's also a little bit of the rebel, although he's terrified of Oris, as anybody should be.
Right. Right.
And the friend, and wants to be the love interest.
Yeah.
Which isn't gonna happen. But you know, I mean, so he plays a lot of roles.
Yeah. No,
so he's definitely a sidekick as opposed to a side character. There is a difference between the two.
Yeah, I think so. Kat in my Aura series has Naomi, but I think Naomi fills more of a mentor role than but she's a friend too. So like it's hard to say. Mac has Damien, who's her best friend, works with her at her restaurant, is the bartender for her. And is also there with a lot of tough love and is, you know, just gives her shit for the stuff she does.
I like Damien. That's a good point. Yeah.
And he always has her back. Like as much as they fought in the book that I wrote for them, he always, you know, had her back and he was always there.
I would read a story on Damien. I would love you to write a series, a spin-off with Damien's story. I would love that.
Yeah, I think he'd be really cool. He'd be a really cool main character because he's very chill. Whereas Mac is like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna jump into this fire, and he's like, no. He's like, don't do that.
Let's think about this. Yeah,
right.
I that might be a good litmus type test for your sidekick. Is it someone that you, as the writer, would want to know more about in a book by itself?
Yeah.
Can it do that? Because some side characters are not strong enough to warrant their own book, but a sidekick should be.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I use the friend sidekick a lot.
And then I was thinking about, because we've talked about the main character having a sidekick. Villains tend to not have sidekicks. They have henchmen. They have people that are yes men, that are willing to be there, that'll do what they say for whatever their own greed or personal goals are.
Right, but, like Oris very much has henchmen. He does not have sidekicks.
Yeah, or friends, honestly.
Right, yeah.
But villains, because they're untrustworthy, are never going to have that sidekick character, that person who is going to stick up for them, who is going to, you know, sometimes die for them. Samwise Gamgee was willing to die for Frodo.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. I think hopefully this helped you all think a little bit more in depth about sidekick characters.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have an interview question for you.
Okay.
So you told us about all of your sidekicks that you've written. Which one is your favorite? Because you said that the teenager is your favorite type of sidekick, but which sidekick specifically is your favorite?
Well, I do like my sidekick in the Kada story, which is the one that starts here and goes into another world. There is a teenage character in that one who just cracks me up. Yeah. But I think I would have to say really the fairies are my favorite sidekick characters that I've written. And they're not really teenagers. Good. They come across as children.
Yeah.
But they're not children. And I love the way they look at the world. I really would be interested in knowing more about them in their own story. What made Leary want to follow the rules? Yeah. Why does she know those rules so well when the other ones are like, rules.
Yeah.
She calls everybody out on the rules. Why? Why
Yeah.
does she do that? I would love to know her story.
I love your fairies. They're really good. They just cause so much mischief. Even Leary, who is very much a rule follower, she's like, I'm here for the mischief, but we're gonna do it by the rules.
Yes. Yeah, and there's more, but I can't give away stuff.
Yeah,
I want you all to read
yeah.
my book, but she is a trip. She's like, yeah, there's rules, but if Beck dies,
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I think mine for my books is Sarah, the witch that I was talking about in Aiden's book. She ends up playing a bigger role in this book than I had anticipated, and she's really cool. I really love the tough love. I love writing tough love. Just the friend who's willing to, who cares about their friends so much that they're like, listen, you're being a dumbass. This is why. I love you, but chill.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
It's very fun to write because Aiden is also very stubborn and fiery and like hot-headed. And so she's like, I'm going to go do this thing and I'm going to do it because I'm right and I'm angry and I'm going to do this. And Sarah's like, no, you're being dumb. Calm down.
See, the draft of that story that I've read, Sarah was a character, but she wasn't a huge character. So I can't wait to read.
Yeah.
You're going to be one of my favorite authors that I'm like, hurry up and write the next book. Luckily,
that doesn't count.
I am lucky enough to be her beta reader, y'all. So when you all are waiting for the next book, I will have read it.
That's true. Yeah, no, Sarah plays a much bigger role because of the way that I've set up my magic system. There's a reason she plays a much bigger role, and it is because of the magic that I've set up. So.
And y'all, I do think Taylor is an excellent resource for magic systems. So if, we do have an episode, go and listen to our episode on creating magical systems.
Yeah, also reach out. Like I'm more than happy to email
yes.
you all about, brainstorming and thinking of magic systems. It's one of my favorite things to do ever.
It is. And that you all email, however you want to reach us, she is good at that. I am about to use that resource with my Harper story because I want to have something different. I don't want the same old. I think what I've got is a good idea, but I trust her to, when I walk her through what I plan on, I trust her to say, Mom, that's not going to work, or actually this is great, and why not this? So use us. We are more than willing to,
we love discussion. Obviously.
We do.
We created a podcast to talk
we
about
do.
writing, so we're more than happy to chat.
So on that note, you can reach us through our emails, which is eat.drink.write.podcast@gmail.com. But even easier than trying to remember that is just go to our website, which is eatdrinkWritePodcast.com. Yes.
Yes.
And you can get our social media there. You can find our podcast there. There's links to, YouTube and there are links to.
There's Facebook.
Wow, I can't even talk anymore. I have almost finished my entire drink. So I've had the equivalent of 2 dirty martinis, which is very strong.
Very strong.
And I haven't eaten, so.
Well, there's that.
Yay, me.
Before we hop off, I do have a sentence challenge also.
Oh, yes.
So we have gotten sentences from y'all. They're really great. I love
Jen has responded every week. She is amazing. I love her sentences. We are going to read them. We're going to do a small episode, whatever you call it, a mini episode. That's it.
Episode, yeah.
So y'all send them in. These are great. Yeah, I love it.
It's a lot of fun. So the sentence for today's episode is a piece of dialogue. So in quotations, who do you think you are? My sidekick? And that's the sentence. So.
I love it. So thank you all. Please do the sentence challenges. That is so awesome. I am loving reading Jen's stuff. And honestly, reading her stuff is sparking my own ideas.
Yeah.
Which you all, this is a good thing. This is what we're here for. This is why we started this. We used to go and sit on the deck and just drink our wine or beer or whatever and talk writing. And finally we were like, we should record this.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next week. Send jokes because I'm running low on funny jokes. Just contact us. Let us know what y'all want us to talk about. Jen was wonderful in sending us topics. We still have that topic of writing. Yeah, she knows what I'm talking about. The sex scenes. She doesn't want to do it. But see,
they're fine to write. They're fine to write. It's just weird talking about "you're my mother." It's just weird.
That's what Jen said. She's like, although you are mother and daughter, so I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. And I have written romance, so I have done the real sex scenes, and I have ended up with sex scenes in my Kada book that I did not expect to. But there are ways to do it. There's ways to be explicit. There's ways to be romance oriented. There's ways to have the romance without the actual sex. There's ways to have the sex without it being explicit. So at some point we will do an episode on that, although my daughter really doesn't want to.
I'll drink some alcohol for it.
And there you go. Maybe it's one we should do in person because that would be really funny.
It would be something. It'd be something.
Love you guys. See you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.